Merry meet and welcome. Welcome to the realms of mysticism, the occult, and magic, where your possibilities are only limited by your imagination. Welcome to the witch's cauldron and discover the knowledge you seek. Gather round the cauldron and even stay for a spell. Brightest blessings to you. Merry meet and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. I'm Paula. Today is the last in my Beyond 101 series with working with the God and the Goddess. And today's video is on working with the sage aspect of the God. And when you think of the sage, think of him as a grandfatherly type that's old and wise from experience and the wisdom that they've gained from a lifetime of experiences, okay? He is also the reminder of your mortality and that death must come to us all, okay? He is a keeper of knowledge. He is a teacher. He is a wise man. As his life ends, he comes to guide the younger ones on their path. Think of him as the death that must come so that life may continue on. Sages are knowledge, wisdom, acceptance, the knowledge of the past, and wisdom to accept the unacceptable, okay? The sage teaches us to take delight and really take time to appreciate all that we have learned in our lives and on our paths as we go along. Here is part of the charge of the God about the sage, okay? I am the sage God, wise and accepting. I sit with the young and tell them stories of the fantastic life I have lived. I am the shaman that guides the leaders and the high priest that prays for the lost. I am he who sacrifices life, for I understand that all must return to the summerland. I am the cooling evening sun by which dinner is feasted upon with family and friends. Feel my love and wisdom in the hours before dark, and know that though you may not see me, I am always there. Now, when I was going through my training, the ways that you can work with the sage God, and this is not, all encompassing, but these are some of the ways that most 101 books never tell you. One is the acceptance of death, loss and death of family and friends, knowledge, helping others or mentoring others, teaching and letting go, okay? When I was going through training, there were 3 gods that were mentioned in our training handouts, so to speak, that represented the sage aspect of the god. And the first one is Ogma. He's a Celtic god of language and inspiration, whose symbols are animal skins, gold, and the Druidic alphabet. Horus the Elder from the Egyptian pantheon, representing light and fertility, whose symbols are the horse, the bear, and dragon's blood. And Ea, which is a Middle Eastern god that represented water, wisdom, and magic, and whose symbols are the oceans, lakes, and rain. Okay. When I went through my training, we had to research some sage gods on our own. The first one that I researched was Cronus. the Greek god of time and god of agriculture. And his symbols were the sickle, the scythe, the planet Saturn, and the hourglass. There was the Scandinavian god, the Tomt, who is the protector of children, home, and protector of farms, whose sacred items are porridge and butter. And then the Holly King, and that is a, like the Oak King and the Holly King, okay? Whose aspects and correspondences include withdrawal, lessons, life, and rest. And sacred items are holly, the wren, black, the colors black, red, and green. And when I described the sage god, this is what I wrote. The sage god is the grandfatherly image, full of life stories and lessons and wisdom of life well led. He helps me accept my failures and learn from them. He also helps me accept mortality and loss. And when I stopped and thought about it, how could I connect on a deeper level with the sage god? And especially at the time of year when I am recording this. This is just after Samhain. This is just after the death of the god to be reborn at Yule, okay? This time of year, it's very easy for me to connect with the sage. And I do that by just walking outside. You walk outside at dusk. You can hear the crunch of the leaves that have fallen from the trees underneath your feet. You can see the evidence of squirrels running around, building nests, getting their winter nests ready, gathering up nuts and hiding them all over the place. Watching this cycle go on, and preparing for the coming dark and for the lightness to return at Yule. It also reminds me that, I'm in my mid-50s. I'm 56 years old right now. And, my mortality is knocking at the door. I'm not 20 years old anymore. I think I'm 20 years old, but my body is telling me, honey, you're well on the other side of 50 and you're sliding into 60 real easy. But it helps me appreciate the lessons that I have learned, the blessings I have received, and then it lets me look forward to my older years. I have a grandbaby now. I've got a grandson. Spending time with him, watching him grow up, passing on knowledge to him, things of that nature. And that's going to be a very important thing for me, in my waning years that I have left. So I look to the sage to help me deal with these issues, okay? The thought of death and dying is pretty scary to most people, okay? The sage can help you accept it and learn to live your best life, okay? Because we're all going to die someday, okay? That's just a fact of life. He also, as you get older and start to experience the loss of parents, the loss of your siblings, losing my eldest sister just really knocked me for a loop about 4 years ago. It just took the wind right out of my sails. My parents were a little bit easier to take. They had, illness, and it was a blessing when they passed because my parents had suffered enough at that point. It also helped me the sage helped me deal with the loss of pets as well. And you may think, well, that's pretty trifling. No, I'm talking the loss of my familiar. and him passing into Summerland. And he still comes back. Every once in a while, you'll see like a tail wag behind me in the shadows. And that's him, because his ashes are right over here on this table. And I lost 3 dogs to cancer in 4 years. So I had a really tough time then, losing pets that I loved with every bit of my being, and then having my familiar go, who was like a completion of my soul. He got me through so much. The sage helped me deal with that grief and helped me transition to life without having those people and those pets in it any longer. But I still had the memories and the experiences that the sage reminded me of, that I could look back on and have my heart filled with joy again. Okay, at just the thought of things that we did with my mom and dad when I was a kid, or things that I had talked about with my sister, or, the way my goofy familiar used to love wearing the reindeer antlers at Christmas time. And he would literally pose under the Christmas tree, like, and smile from ear to ear, like, I'm the best present Santa ever brought for you, Mom. He thought he was all that in a bag of chips. And he was, man, because he was just that goofy. And he was goofy when I needed to be goofy. So I also encourage you guys to write your own invocation and release for each aspect of the god, okay? Each aspect of the god and the goddess, as a matter of fact. So when I was going through my training, this is what I wrote as an invocation and release to the sage. I call to the wise sage and invite him to join me in this rite. Bless me with the wisdom of the ages and acceptance of life lessons. Blessings and welcome. And then the release. Thank you, sage, for joining me and blessing me with the wisdom that life lessons bring, and acceptance for the person life has made me. I will remember these lessons and carry them in my heart until we meet again. Farewell and blessed be. When I was going through my training, the easiest phase of the god for me to connect with was the sage, because I had already experienced the loss of my mother and my father. I lost both of my parents. I lost my dad when I was 28, and I lost my mom when I was in my late 30s. So it's been a lot of years without my mom and dad around. I had a lot of loss. I then lost my aunt and uncle, who were like my second set of parents, within about 18 months of each other. And that was very shortly after my mother passed away. So, and then I lost my sister 4 years ago. So the sage really helped me accept death and grieve properly, and helped me identify the way that I needed to grieve, if that makes any sense. And out of each one of those losses, he showed me the lesson that I was supposed to learn, and the blessing that those people were to me when they were alive. Now, when I went through, we had to also write our own version of the charge of the god and charge of the goddess. Here is what I wrote for the sage. I am the sage father, wise from the years past, and a life filled with learning and loss. Call to me in the dusty time before sunset to find the lessons learned during the day. Do not fear me, for you must embrace the coming dark to reawaken at dawn's first light. I still love that part. that I wrote over 15 years ago. And that was because at that time I had such a profound connection to the sage aspect of the God. So when you're working with the sage, some ideas for your altar can be black or gold altar cloths, onyx, black tourmaline, Apache's tear, or bloodstone for the crystals and gemstones. The herbs and resins are myrrh, calendula, black malva, and juniper berries. A book on mythology. Okay, you may not think about having a book on the mythology of different gods and goddesses, but that would be great as part of an honoring to the sage god. And black candles. So in summary, a lot of people have a hard time really bonding with the sage because they are afraid of that finality of death. But if you embrace him, he can help you accept lessons of people that you lose, and then accept the lessons that you're supposed to learn during this lifetime for your own transition into the summer land, and then to be reborn again through the goddess. Okay? So with that, my friends, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. If you are a new subscriber, thank you for subscribing. I hope you stay with us in our little community here and hang around for a while. If you would like to further support the channel, I do have an Amazon storefront. The link is in the description box. Don't feel obligated, but that's where I usually put like my recommended products, books that I've read that I recommend and things like that. Don't feel obligated to, buy from there, but if you do, just know that I earn commission from any sales of items that you buy in that Amazon store. The channel also has membership levels. There are two. There is the Cauldron Coven and then the Cauldron Practitioner. They have early access to the videos. They have custom emojis. They also have members only live streams. And then the practitioners have members only Google Meets where we all panel up together and we have a chat about a particular subject. So if you'd like to support the channel, please feel free, hit that join button down below. I will also put the link in the description box because I know iPhone, iPad, Apple just can't get it together to put that join button there on the channel splash page. So with that, my friends, as I always say, merry we did meet, merry we will part until we merry meet again. Be well and walk in love and light, everybody. Bye.